Hello, my lovely artist pals. This video is going to show you how to do sketchbook assignment number 2. I think it's really important for me to, at this point in the semester early on, to show videos of how things work. So we're going to be using Line of Action, which is a website some of y'all might have used before for figure drawing. And we'll be using that for quite a few of the sketchbook assignments. So in this demo, I'm going to demonstrate how you can translate the things you learned from the reading into your drawing practice. But I'm also going to use this as a way of kind of showing you generally how to use Line of Action and how the sketchbook assignments will work, so that for future assignments, y'all will really know what's happening and feel confident in getting in there and doing your sketchbook figure drawing practice. So I'm gonna share my screen and show you what Line of Action looks like. So all you have to do is go to lineofaction.com, I think. Yep. And basically you have some options. So I like to always just click all models. That being said, if you're uncomfortable with nudity, you can select only covered models, or maybe you really want to do anatomy practice. So it's really important that you have nude models. So you might want to select only nude models. I like to generally select all genders, but maybe you're doing a specific project in which you really want to have a non-binary model, or you really want to have a male or female model. You can use these things here to select that. Ages, I'm going to select adult, but sometimes it's nice to draw, get practice drawing babies, for instance. So I'm also going to click on class mode, which is pretty important because it'll all work very differently. And for the most part, our sketchbook assignments, we're going to be doing the 30-minute long class mode. Occasionally, our sketchbook assignments are going to use something totally different than Line of Action, but for the most part, we'll be doing the class mode, or you can select a 10-minute pose, depending on the assignment. So for this sketchbook assignment number 2, we're going to do a 30-minute class mode session where basically it'll be 15 gesture drawings and then 3 longer drawings. So 2 5-minute drawings and 1 10-minute drawing. And then you'll click Get Drawing, and you'll see your model. You'll be able to jump on and get drawing. So I'm going to swap on over so I can show you from a different perspective how this gesture drawing practice might look, and also how to use your materials and kind of translate some of those ideas from the reading into your drawing practice. All right, so before we actually get into gesture drawing, I want y'all to take one page from your notebook or from your sketchbook where you're practicing some of those concepts that were really emphasized in the reading. So these ideas of C and S curves being really helpful for creating a sense of symmetry and asymmetry. And this is something that I feel like I've always done in my drawings, but I never really had the words to break it down into this concept of a C curve or an S curve. But drawing with this specific kind of curvature can be a really excellent way of creating a fluidity to your mark, as well as a confidence to your line. So whenever we're figure drawing, we want to use lines that are confident, fluid, capture the organic form of the human body, rather than kind of like hatching along and eventually getting to a line like this. We want things to be fluid. And a lot of this has to do with the speed at which you're moving your hand. So sometimes I'm moving my whole arm. I'm almost like pivoting my whole elbow to make a really fluid curve like this. I can make that same curve by going through and being really specific about it, but that doesn't end up looking quite as nice and elegant as really just confidently getting in there with a line. So on one page, I want you to just practice these C-shape and S-shape curves and just doodle with them. This first page is all about just like kind of getting used to that feeling. I also encourage y'all to go through and look at some of these ideas in the book about these 8 parts of the body. So we've got the head, we've got the head, the spine, the arms, the pelvis, the rib cage, and the legs. And how identifying and being really thoughtful about these 8 parts of the body when we're gesture drawing can be really, really important. So if we kind of like skip over thinking about the pelvis, for example, then we might end up with a form that is lacking the sort of connections between the legs and the torso. So we want to make sure that we are being really thoughtful about how those 8 parts of the body work together. So I encourage y'all to go through the reading and really look at those diagrams and just do a quick drawing of your own in which you're kind of transferring over and taking notes of those diagrams that you saw in the reading. And start with a head shape, rib cage. Notice how the pelvis is almost working asymmetrically. This is moving this way, this is moving this way, and they're almost balancing one another out, which is one thing that they talk about a lot in this section of the reading, is about how the human body is all about balance. So after you've done a page of doodling with your C and S-shaped curves and thinking a little bit about transferring over those diagrams from the book, next I want you to switch to a new page and we're going to do some gesture drawing. So this is the point where you want to pull open your 30-minute class session on line of action. And for your gesture drawings, you're welcome to use any material you want. I'm going to start with micron pens, but again, we're going to be thinking about those 8 major parts of the body, and we're going to also be practicing using those C and S-shaped curves in order to capture the complexity of the human form. So remember that gesture drawing is about capturing the movement of the body, the weight distribution. It is not at all about perfection. Instead, it's really about really learning how to see quickly how the pose sits in space, how the different parts of the body affect the other ones. So in this pose, this person's really looking over their shoulder. This is a really dynamic pose. So there's this interesting shifting here. So like the clavicle coming through here is really foreshortened. We also want to really take note of where is the spine. So your gesture drawing of the spine might be one of the first things that you get down in your gesture drawings, because that spine is taking up a really important part of the form of the body that everything else is going to relate to in really important ways. So remember that gesture drawing is all about working quickly and loosely. There's going to be nothing perfect about your gesture drawings, and that's how it ought to be. And that's why you only have 30 seconds to a minute to work on these. You're welcome to start your gesture drawings in micron pen, and then maybe you want to take a felt tip pen and then overlay another round of gesture drawings on top, in which you're able to really start to see some more confident lines start to emerge. I already feel like I'm gaining a lot of confidence in my 4th or 5th gesture drawing compared to my first. So hopefully you'll be able to really kind of see some improvement pretty quickly in how you're able to translate those 8 parts of the body into basic shapes. So I really encourage y'all, when you're making these gesture drawings, to really think about where that rib cage is sitting. It's almost like you have to like look through the model a little bit, and how the pelvis is working asymmetrically with the rib cage. So the pelvic bone is normally going to kind of work, they're almost going to face each other in this pose, in which this person is kind of like almost doing like a crunch a little bit. Let's see. But also notice how I'm doing a lot of sort of curvy lines where I'm not really blocking it off super straight like this, but instead I'm trying to keep my lines nice and fluid. So I want to really allow the curves to work with one another and to create an asymmetry. So again, we're thinking about how each one of these curves, these C or S curves, are kind of relating to each other in this way. So instead of our curves stacking on top of each other like this, which creates kind of like a stiff snowman-like effect, your curves, the apex or like the middle point of your curves should start before the other one ends, which will create a sense of fluid movement and help you capture the human form in a really dynamic way. So after you do these gesture drawings, so you should have 15 gesture drawings. Half of those are going to be 30 minutes. Some of them will be 1 minute. Then we're going to do 2 5-minute poses and 1 10-minute pose. So when you're doing the longer poses, so when you have 5 minutes, it's quite a long time compared to that 30 minutes. So I'm actually going to start with a micron pen, and I'm going to start very loose and gesturally. And this time I'm going to relegate 1 page per drawing because I do have 5 minutes, which is a decent amount of time to make a drawing. So I'm going to start with the head, block it in really loosely, and then I'm going to really lightly jot in where the rib cage is going to sit. I'm going to think about where's the pelvis. I'm also, again, I'm just looking at my model more than I'm looking at my page. It's way more important that we learn how to see than we make like a perfect looking drawing. You can trace an image and make it look perfect, but learning how to see is really what you're going to need to learn in this class in order to improve your life drawing skills. So I'm working very fluidly and loosely, and I'm allowing my drawings or my lines to sit on top of one another. Sometimes I have one line that's more accurate than another, and that's fine. I'm also starting to look for landmarks, like where is the belly button and how far down does it sit within the rest of the chest? What is the sort of axis that the face is sitting in? And so in this first couple minutes of this 5-minute drawing, it's really important that we sort all of this out. So I noticed that my head is a little bit to the right. That is something that happens often when you're thinking more specifically rather than working general first. So I'm gonna have to move the face over. Luckily, because I'm still using this really light micron pen, I'm gonna be able to really emphasize the correct lines later on, and make a much more sort of accurate set of lines. So it's really important that we're really working generally. We're still moving very fluidly, maybe you want to create an indication of, so this is a person sitting on a bed, maybe I want to create an indication of where the pillow sits, just so that she makes a little bit more sense spatially. And then I'm going to switch to a felt tip pen. And at this point, I can go through and I can really start to get a little bit more specific, but I'm not slowing down too much, because I want to be able to keep that kind of energy that I had from the beginning in my gesture drawings. Notice how I'm still using these sort of C or S-shaped curves with my felt tip pen. I can also, at this point, start to jot in some light and shadow. I can start to emphasize if there's a line, a really confident shadow line that I want to really become an important part of the composition. I can use my felt tip pen to really jot that in, but I can also start to really think about shadow and light. So how is light hitting the figure? I can think about modifying and getting a little bit more specific with the anatomy at this point. So I can start to really kind of look at where is the kneecap, rather than just thinking about the leg as one large shape. I can also start to think about the hand being split into some fingers rather than it just being a loose shape. But again, this is only a 5-minute drawing, so it's not going to be perfect. And I've noticed that I've made the right breast a little bit too low compared to the left because her rib cage is at an angle like this. This one should be a little bit higher and this one should be lower. So we can always think about kind of like the axis and use horizontal and vertical plumb lines, which you might have learned in drawing 1, which is this concept of almost like dropping an invisible vertical or horizontal line down on the image that we're looking at or onto the model, and then using that in order to check the angle. So that's how I knew that these breasts were slightly too straight, and I needed the angle between them to be a little bit more dramatic. So at this point, we can also get a little bit, we can have a little bit more fun with kind of like how we're shading the form. So we can use some of that sort of cross contour curved lines in order to capture a sense of shadow on the form. So again, I'm using these sort of C and S-shaped curves to really think about how light is moving around the form. You can do some cross-hatching if you'd like, but do your best to make those lines just as curved and organic and full of life as the model that you're drawing, rather than doing marks that are just sort of straight up and down like this. So using curved lines that wrap, and that concept in the text of wrapping lines can be really helpful in order to create even more volume on your figure. So it's up to you just how much detail you go into, but I encourage you to really have fun with it. Sometimes taking a drawing a little bit too far is better than not taking the risk and not experimenting. You'll learn a lot more from taking a risk and seeing what will happen than you might from just playing it safe and doing it the way that you know. So happy drawing. Don't forget to look at your model more than you're looking at your drawing itself, and have fun. So in this sketchbook assignment, you should end up with 3 drawings that are slightly longer. So 2 5-minute drawings like this one, and then 1 10-minute drawing. And that's after doing all of those gesture drawings. So that's a pretty good example of what a lot of the assignments are going to look at. However, the reading and different videos that I'll provide, as well as just more specific prompts, will tell you kind of like how to approach the drawing session. But using line of action as your primary mode of reference is hopefully going to be really helpful. I hope you like it. It can be a really great resource. But I hope you have a great time, happy drawing, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with. Bye.